With this foundational truth in mind, I am now going to quickly review some basic constitutional principles that we discussed last July, review some 9 constitutional remedies, and then come up with an action plan that's winnable. Article 1, Section 8 gives the federal government 18 specific, limited, enumerated powers, and we discussed those back in the summer. For the sake of time, I'm not going to discuss those 17 or 18 powers. But I just want to say a couple things. James Madison said in the Federalist Papers, the powers delegated by the proposed Constitution to the federal government are few and defined. Those which are to remain in the state governments are numerous and infinite. There are 5 broad responsibilities, and this is all that they are responsible for. Financially, they're responsible to run the federal government. Promote interstate commerce, not regulate it, promote it, facilitate it, make it prosperous. Establish a judicial system, provide for our national defense, and administer the federal government. And it really isn't any more complicated than that. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. The federal government has exclusive legislative authority over federal land. Washington, D.C., national parks, any land that has been seceded by the states becomes jurisdiction under the federal government. And there is some question of whether or not that's limited or unlimited, but they do have exclusive. That much is important. If Congress does pass a law that is outside these 18 enumerated powers, then if they have the authority to do it, and that's the question, which I don't have an answer for, if they have the authority to do it, and it's not in those 18 enumerated powers, it only has application to federal land. Separate geographic jurisdictional authority between the states and the federal government is one of the most fundamental, important checks and balances in our entire Constitution. In other words, and we need to think about it, we need to change our thinking. When we talk about the U.S. government, there is actually 2 types. The external, which they have authority in those 18 responsibilities to do what they do, but they also have an internal function because they don't share jurisdiction with any county government, any city government, or any state government. They have exclusive legislative responsibility to maintain whatever it is that's under their geographic jurisdiction. But the main thing that is really important for our country to understand is that this separate geographic jurisdiction is one of the most important checks and balances in our Constitution, and it's not taught and it's not understood. So, let's think about this for a minute. We all understand that city government's authority ends at the city limits, right? And the county government authority ends outside or at the county borders. And the state's authority ends at the state's borders. We understand that. What we don't understand is the opposite is just as true. The United States government's authority outside of those 18 enumerated powers ends at the federal border boundaries. Let me give you some more examples. Let's be specific here. For the sake of time, these are too long to read, but this is a decision based in Pritz versus United States. Justice Scalia made the following observations that documents what I'm just sharing with you. The framers rejected the concept of a central government and that our citizens have 2 political capacities, one state and one federal, each protected from incursion by the other, and that the local or municipal authorities form distinct and independent portions of supremacy, no more subject to the general authority than the general authority is subjected to them. In other words, they're equal and separate. And the general, being the United States government, is not any more powerful than your city or county or state government. Another continuation of that same decision, this separation of the two spheres is one of the Constitution's structural protections of liberty. Let's again, now I want to be specific. If Congress has any legislative authority that is outside of the 18 powers that we've granted to them through the Constitution, let's just say, for example, that Congress is very concerned about endangered species, or they're concerned about minimum wage laws, or they're concerned about hate crime. Do you find those in those 18 enumerated powers? I mean, we could go on and on and on, all the things that they do. But let's suppose they have that authority. Where does that authority end? If Congress wants to pass protection of endangered species, they can do it. But it doesn't have any bearing on the city, county, or state governments. Now, here is an interesting problem. Who remembers what happened this past summer in California? Huh? Okay, the farmers. The farmers. Right. Okay. California farmers were told they could not irrigate during a drought because it was going to threaten the Delta smelt. And man, this was causing huge economic hardships on the state of California. And the governor and the state legislature appealed to the federal government, begging, petitioning.
No, they begged.
I'm kidding. They petitioned them for an exemption. But Antonio was right. They were begging. Why were they begging?
Because the Supreme Court has said that the waters that are navigable belong to the United States, and stare decisis, sole supreme.
But the county and the state could have said, that doesn't apply to us, and we don't recognize it, and it's null and void in our jurisdiction, and we don't recognize it. They could have done that. What happened when Governor Schwarzenegger and the state legislature asked for an exemption? Did they get anything from it? Okay.
These people in power, though, know the Constitution. That's my question.
I don't know the answer because this is like so basic. What I'm sharing with you seems to be so big, but in truth it's not big. In truth, every high school senior should understand the limits of geography, jurisdiction. I mean, this is so basic. This is not, you do not need a law degree to understand this. Well, I know they're not taught this. Okay. Rather than asking permission, what would have been a better solution? Just say, forget it. We don't need your permission. We are our own government, political entity, and our people need our help, and we're going to stand up and protect our farmers from being financially ruined by some judge's decision about that.